And I wanted to include this clip because once again you can see how much he's really enjoying these scratches. His head's just moving around at weird angles and you can see his top lip sticking out. And we have licking and chewing in the middle of this as well. So not only are the scratches rewarding, he's getting a dopamine release in his brain from the licking and chewing. And overall, these behaviors are just making this a fantastic experience for him that he will be happy to repeat. And I'm scratching all the way down his back, which is a great progression on him accepting touch. Welcome back to another video in Sundancer's journey from wild to willing partner. To begin this session, I'm working on some simple face touching and clicking and rewarding for him being calm and allowing me to touch his face. I'm also working my way up to his ears because it's absolutely necessary that he's comfortable having his ears touched in order for me to calmly be able to put the halter over his ears and also bridles in the future. We also need to handle our horse's ears in case of any ear infections or ear mites that we might need to take care of, so it's very important that they are calm and allow that to happen. And here you'll see his progress working on backing up. First I'm using just my hips, and if he doesn't get what I'm asking using just my hips, as you see here, I'll go ahead and add in a touch on the point of the shoulder, which means to back up. Now this is introducing pressure and release to Sundancer as well, which is absolutely a necessary concept for a horse in the human world to understand. And next in the session, I'm working on touching down Sundancer's leg, but as you can see by him stepping backwards and moving away from me, he's not exactly comfortable with that. So I go ahead and move into something he is comfortable with, which is follow me. Once again, if we continue pushing things that the horse is not comfortable with, then they're going to become uncomfortable with us, period, and will damage our trust and relationship. Another aspect that we must be able to do to safely halter and comfortably halter is reach over Sundancer's pole to the other side of his neck. So you'll see I'm just replicating that motion here from the right side of his body, and I'll also do it from the left some as well so he's comfortable on both sides. Now this is a big moment. We're asking for Sundancer to take his first little actual investigation of the halter. So all I'm doing is lifting it a little bit off the ground and waiting for him to decide to go ahead and smell that halter. As you can see, he's a little bit unsure, but he's trying. So I'm going to go ahead and reward for that because we always want to reward for the slightest try to encourage our horse. And here he steps up and asks me for some neck scratches. That's completely fine with me and I will oblige. However, I want to note here that it will be important for us in the future to establish boundaries around when and how he can ask me for scratches. We don't want a horse that runs over to people and bumps into them asking for scratches all the time. As I've said before, boundaries are absolutely necessary for a healthy relationship. And right here, I'm just scratching over Sundancer's back, and he gets a little bit uncomfortable and decides to move. But I went ahead and rewarded him for that anyways because I am scratching further back on his back than I have previously. And he comes back and positions himself in order to ask for more back scratches. It won't be long before he's fully accepting of touch. He's still a little unsure about me touching his back, but that's okay. As I always say, training is not linear. Now here I went ahead and picked up the halter to ask him to investigate it once again. And I thought this would be a good place to let you guys know that some horses have an extreme amount of anxiety just when the halter is even picked up off the ground. So it is important that we take these intermediate steps before we just start sticking the halter on the horse's face. And right there, he did touch his nose to the halter and give it a good sniff. So I'll click in reward for that great behavior. Now this is the first time that I've been on Sundancer's left side in this session, and he's still a little bit unsure about me being on this side, so I'll always start slow at the beginning of the session. You saw I was just petting right up on his neck until he actually stepped forward and asked me to go ahead and scratch his back further back. So this is great. It means he's getting more comfortable with me, and as you can see by his odd head movements, he's truly enjoying these back scratches. And right here is the first time that I have let him investigate the halter with me on his left side, which is where I will need to be when we actually begin the haltering process. So he has to get used to seeing me over here. As you can see, he does really good. He comes and sniffs it, but he is holding on to a little bit of anxiety when I set it back down, as you can see by his head raise and back up. We ended this session with him confidently touching the halter and left it off on a positive note. In the next session, I started on his left side, and as you can see, he steps forward to allow me to scratch on him. However, he does get slightly uncomfortable, and you'll see him back up here in a second, but I'm sure to click right now before he actually takes that full step back. So we're still rewarding for him being still and allowing those back scratches, not rewarding for him backing away. And he came back for more right after that. So he definitely realizes when we are respecting his boundaries and appreciates that in us. Now, even after our positive ending with the halter in the last session, he is a little bit skeptical about the halter at the beginning of this session. So don't expect your horse to pick up exactly where you left off the previous day. Now, I wanted to include this clip so we could discuss in a little bit more detail how you know when your horse is truly enjoying scratches. So right here we see Sundancer's neck and head kind of wobbling and moving in weird ways, and if you look closely, you'll also see his lips quivering, sticking out, and maybe even drooping open. That's how you know your horse is truly and thoroughly enjoying their scratches, and at that point, scratches can be used as a reward. And in this session, I'm able to extend how far down I'm able to touch down Sundancer's leg with him remaining comfortable. And I am preparing to be able to untangle his mane. So just like we started touch with just asking a little bit of him, we also don't want to just jump in and start working on untangling that mane. It's different having two arms up there messing with things. He's okay with being touched. However, it's a little bit different when you're just messing with his mane and he's not really sure what you're doing because you're not touching him. So it's important that we also introduce untangling his mane slowly so that we don't end up building up any anxiety around grooming in the future. Now, we also need to be able to touch his body with two hands, especially for future grooming. So you'll see in this clip, I'm introducing touching him with both arms, and I'm using scratching as a way to introduce this because I know he loves it, and two hands is going to feel better than just one when I'm scratching him. So he will be much obliged to allow me to scratch him with two arms and be more comfortable with it because he enjoys those scratches so much. And I wanted to include this clip because once again, you can see how much he's really enjoying these scratches. His head's just moving around at weird angles, and you can see his top lip sticking out. And we have licking and chewing in the middle of this as well. So not only are the scratches rewarding, he's getting a dopamine release in his brain from the licking and chewing. And overall, these behaviors are just making this a fantastic experience for him that he will be happy to repeat. And I'm scratching all the way down his back, which is a great progression on him accepting touch. Right there, I was messing with his mane and he stepped up and asked for more back scratches. So as I said previously, I will happily oblige at this time. I'll allow him to decide when he wants scratches and when he won't. And later we will incorporate boundaries around scratching. But right now it's more important that we build a positive association with being touched. And this is exactly what we want because he is asking for me to touch him. I'm not having to force him into a corner and force him to let me touch him. He is wanting it, which is exactly what we are going for. Now, even though he was thoroughly enjoying scratches on the right side, I come around to the left and I'm working on touching him, scratching him with 2 arms the same way. And he's enjoying it at first, but then he begins to feel a little bit anxious about it. As you can see here, and it might be because I came a little further down his belly, he decides to step off and say that he does not like that very much. And that's okay. As I've always said, we have to respect our horse's boundaries if we want them to respect ours, if we want a true 2-way relationship. And I'm still going to reward him for being okay with those scratches in the first place. And we'll just work our way a little bit more slowly down his left side rather than jumping straight to his back. And as you can see, he is enjoying the scratches once again. And if you notice, when I offered him hay just a second ago, he didn't even take it. He only wanted some more scratches. So even though he got a little anxious and overwhelmed, the joy that the scratches give him overrides the anxiety. So he comes back and asks for more scratches. Not every horse enjoys scratches so much. Each horse is individual, and it's up to you to figure out what motivates and rewards your horse more and what you can use and what they would like you to use during each training session. And he remained a little bit unsure of the halter in this session. He reaches out to try and sniff it here, but he isn't truly interested and walks off over to the side and gives my arm a sniff instead. This is okay. This is all part of offering the horse choice and autonomy within their training sessions. So I'm just going to be patient here. And there he actually reaches out and smells it, and since he's not interested in hay, as we saw in the last clip, I'm going to go ahead and give him scratches as a reward. And if you'll notice, I'm reaching way over his back, and this is beginning to work on getting him used to seeing me on both sides of him, because it's very important for his future riding career that he can be comfortable with seeing a human in 2 eyes at once. Sometimes if we do all of our work on one side, when we switch that or when we are on both sides at once, the horse can get quite anxious because it's not something that they have ever experienced before. And you'll see I'm just repeating this process of having him smell the halter and then offering scratches as a reward. And he gets quite intrigued by the halter and quite excited to smell it. That way he can get his scratches because he enjoys them so much, as you can tell by how his head and neck are moving and his quivering lips that are sticking out. And even if you'll notice, right after he touches it, right there, he goes into enjoying scratches mode before I even begin scratching him. So he's anticipating how good those scratches are going to feel, and this is really turning the halter into a very positive experience for Sundancer, because he's learned that all he has to do is be brave and touch his nose to the halter in order to get more of those amazing scratches that he is so thoroughly enjoying. And I'll even come around to the left side and use some left side back scratches as a reward and reach over to the right side. So he gets used to seeing me on both sides with me standing on either side of him. And right here, I actually worked my way back onto his hindquarters a little bit with some scratches as well. And with that, we've gone from no thank you to the halter to him saying yes please when I bring out the halter. So it's a really cool change to see when your horse starts getting really confident with a new item due to your own rewards. And if he ever gets unsure, I'll just go back to asking him for an easier behavior before bringing out the halter again. In the last section of this video, I want to put a huge emphasis on how important it is to just spend time being with your horse. Simply spending some time with your horse, doing absolutely nothing and expecting nothing of them is one of the most underrated ways to build a connection and bond with your horse. In a herd setting, horses spend half of their day over the course of the day just simply hanging out with their herd mates. So we can really replicate this by just going and hanging out with our horse. You can go out and just sit with them. You can go out and read in their pen. You can go out and listen to some music and have some time to yourself singing or something like that. Or you can go out and draw or paint or simply meditate with your horse. Any of these activities is a great way to just spend some time with your horse. Any horse, whether they're already domesticated or you haven't even been able to touch them yet, will appreciate you just going and hanging out with them. It shows that we care about them, and it teaches the horse that we're not looking for something every time we're around them. We truly just enjoy being around them, and they do appreciate that. So for this entire session, all I did was sit out here in Sundancer's pen while he ate his dinner and worked on some new t-shirt designs for Nirvana Mustang Sanctuary. Doing nothing with my horse is actually one of my favorite things to do. I just kind of like to sit there and admire them here and there and maybe work on a few things. But overall, it's just about the fact that we're putting time in with the horse where we're not asking anything of them. We're just simply present and being with them. Try this out with your horse. Just take some time and hang out with them and let me know how it goes and what happens and what you think of it. See you guys in the next video.